gods to men. Plato, 400 to 300 BC. Ciao everyone, my name is Arsenio. Welcome to the Wine History series. The history of wine is vast. There's many things to discuss. Nearly all the countries in the world are producing wine today. And the question is, where we have the first traces of wine? Who produced the first wine? From what it was produced? Before going to the discovery, I think it's very important to mention about the vine plant itself. So what it is. What is our first image when we talk about vines? You would imagine a vineyard somewhere in Bordeaux or Burgundy or Spain, doesn't matter. A very well organized, managed plant. Very clean, not too vigorous. If we go to Bordeaux, you have a very short trained vines. It's like a woody pot looking like a bonsai tree. When we think about the vine, think about something tidy, something not that large, something looking like a small tree. But actually, if we look at the origins of the vine itself, what kind of plant it is, it's not a tree, it's a liana plant, it's a climber plant. It's a plant which you could find in the forest, which could grow to 12 to 15 meters tall. So we understand that the liana plant is in the forest. The idea of a liana is to climb on the tree, get to the sun, get all the chemical reaction going. So, photosynthesis, accumulation of sugars, and of course, growing some grapes. When we go back to the Neolithic Revolution, which happened around 10,000 BC, it's the first traces when we start seeing wine production. Like when I'm talking about wine, don't imagine like wine cellars with stainless steel tanks or even barrels. We're talking about something extremely primitive. Neolithic Revolution, one of the most important things to emphasize is when the humankind started to adopt agricultural practices, cultivation of plants, and domestication of cattle and other animals. What we were doing, we were cultivating the plants which were bringing food to us. So again, talking about the wheat, talking about any fruit trees, berries, etc. And of course, when we discovered that a plant in the forest can grow some very tasty, not poisonous fruits, at least once a year, of course we're going to cultivate this plant. And this is how it started. Neolithic Revolution, cultivation of plants, discovery of a vine, maximize the production of fruits. And when we're thinking about nowadays vineyards, tidy, short, trained vines, it's very logical. It was a very tall plant, it's not comfortable for harvesting, and of course we're going to train this plant short. It's easy to harvest the grapes, the fruits. Today we're going to discuss the first appearance of wine. Nowadays we have many countries, most of the countries producing wine. It's very important liquid in the whole history of humankind, which shows sometimes status, which is used for celebrating particular events. So it's a very important drink. Of course, many countries fight who first produced the wine, who had the first wine production. Before going to the country where we know for sure, for now, that is the country with the oldest traces of the wine, I want to talk about the discussion which is still ongoing, because some people think and believe the first wine comes from Georgia. It's not true. Yeah, Georgia is the second oldest region in the world which produced wine, because it can be traced back to 8,000 years to the times of the Neolithic Revolution. However, there's another country which apparently produced wine a bit earlier. It can be traced back to 9,000 years. So around 7,000 to 6,600 BC. And this country is China. I would not be surprised why China produced the first wine, although now it's not the first association which you have when you think about China. If we think, it is logical why China was the first country for now. When I'm talking about discoveries, of course, maybe tomorrow there will be a new discovery, there will be another country, or even the same Georgia, which will find some earlier traces of wine. But I'm talking about right now, about year 2023, around November. And it is very logical, because China was the first country start producing pottery. Why is this important? Because we need to remember that at that point of time, there is no concrete tanks, there is no wooden barrels, there is no stainless steel tanks. And of course, the first vessels which were used for wine made from clay. Terracotta or amphor style vessels, which is very simple to make. You need a vessel, you need something where you will keep the liquid for fermentation. To state that someone produced the first wine, you must have some evidence, and evidence going through chemical analysis of a vessel. This is why knowing that China is a country with the earliest traces of production of pottery, we therefore can understand they are more likely to be the country where we can trace the earliest wine production, because clay pots have a porous surface, and therefore if they kept some wine there, after thousands of years, the porous surface will have some particles which we now analyzed, and we found out that it was a wine-like liquid. So this is why China had an advantage, and this is why China is the country with the oldest traces of wine production. Let's talk about the wine itself. What we have discovered at that point of time. What kind of wine China produced. Of course, it wasn't a pure grape-made wine. No, it was a mixture of rice, it was a mixture of grapes, it was a mixture of some other fruits, which produced this kind of wine-like liquid. And you can tell me, look, Arsenio, that's not wine. Wine is a beverage produced from grapes only, that's all. And I would say, yeah, of course, you at some point you're right, but we need to remember that there are many definitions of wine. And I chose 2 definitions out of the thousands which exist. And just to give you a comparison. The first definition, wine is an alcoholic beverage made with the fermented juice of grapes. And here you will say, yeah, of course, that's what we know, that's how we perceive the wine. But there's another definition, which is also pretty similar, but different. Wine is the alcoholic, usually fermented juice of plant products used as a beverage. So here we can understand that wine, in reality, it's a pretty, in a way, ambiguous term. Although when we talk about wine nowadays, of course, if you go to a shop, you go to a restaurant and you will ask for a wine list, you will ask for some wine, they will bring you wine made from grapes only. And if you want to order some wine from other fruits, you will name the name of the fruit and then you would say wine. For example, I want some pomegranate wine. You add the name of fruit and then you add wine. But it doesn't really matter when we talk about the first wine discovery, because of course wine can be made from any fruits. It's a matter of having some sugar, some natural yeast, and therefore natural fermentation, which will happen eventually. And this is why we consider nowadays China has the earliest discovery of wine. On the final note, what I want to say, it is important to understand the first origins of wine, because it will help us to understand later why the wine was moving to particular countries, why some countries found wine production earlier than others. So this was a brief history of the origins of the wine. And of course we're going to discuss more and more in detail how the wine was evolving, where it was going to, what kind of adaptations, what kind of wine procedures, significations were going on when they were discovered by whom and why. So I hope you like this video, and if you like it, subscribe, like, and share this video with anyone you like or think it will be interesting. So, ciao!